Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 5 of this series. From today onwards, we will be focusing only on the app logic and the user interface. We are almost done with our frameworks logic. In the first 4 parts, we focused heavily on that. Again, there is not a lot that we put in there, but enough to cover for building or for the purpose of building this application. Over the course of many years, building many applications, I have my own frameworks project, which is much bigger than this, with many common converters, helpers, extension methods, services, some common user interface controls that you can keep on building yourself as and when you progress with more and more applications. Before I start, there were some comments asking for the resources for this project, such as the fonts and the images. I will be releasing the full source code of this application towards the end of the series. But meanwhile, you can go and get any of these images and fonts yourselves. I usually use Icons8. It's a great resource for finding icons, illustrations, and images for your projects. And for the fonts, you can browse or head over to fonts.google.com and you can find some free fonts. Just one important thing to note over here, make sure that for both of these, or in fact for any of the websites where you download data from or any resources from, make sure that you go and read their terms, and if it requires attribution, please do so. So coming back to our application, last time we started building our start page and the start page view model. Now, one thing that we struggled towards the end of the session, I almost spent 5 minutes, is when we run the application, and I showed you that we are waiting for around 3 seconds, and after that we should be showing our data, and we were relying on the data loaded event, or in our case, this property, to signal that the data has been loaded and we can show our label control in this case. But that was not appearing. In fact, even after the recording, I spent a good around 10 minutes on trying to figure out what went wrong. And then I figured out that I have made a silly mistake. I have not specified any text for this label. So obviously the label control is empty. It is not going to show anything on the screen. So let's put something. Let's say hello from UI. And now if I run this, you will be able to see the label or the text appear on the screen after the view model loading is completed. So let us quickly run that and see it in action. Yeah. So here you go. Now we can see. Now we can see the label control on the screen. So let's go back and clean up some of the things that we did. For example, we were doing this. We do not need to do any of this task.delay. This is where we'll put in our extra logic. Now, one additional thing, by the way, I will do, rather than doing this directly in the onNavigated event, I'm going to move this code out and extract it into a separate function. And please keep a note of this. I will explain later on why I am doing this. It is usually not required, but for the purpose of our logic, we will make use of this code again and again. So let me extract this. I'm going to call it search function. So let's start cleaning up a bit. So one of the things I will say is give a proper loading text, which is, instead of hold on, we are loading, we will say something like hold on while we search for YouTube videos. I'm going to bring in a few properties that I'm going to be using for this page. So I have a property, or in fact a local string variable called next token, and the other is the search term. If you remember from our YouTube service that we created, it takes two parameters, the search videos, it takes a search query, what you're trying to search for, and the next page token. So it will return you only 10 items at a time, And if you want to fetch the next 10 items, you have to pass the next page token. And let me bring in the namespace and move it out into our global. And then I have created an observable collection. Let me also bring that in and move that out. Okay. So I've created an observable collection of YouTube video. This is our data model, which holds the YouTube videos. And now it is complaining because it needs to be a partial class because we are using source generator to inject code. So this is the property which will contain or hold list of our videos which we can show on the user interface. So let's go back to our search function. We are going to set our loading indicators to true, set some loading text, and then we are going to say, or we are going to initialize the YouTube videos. We have YouTube videos is equal to new. We are going to initialize to a new observable collection. And this is basically the line, the main line, because of which I extracted this code from on navigated to into the separate search function. So once we are done, we can actually make a call to our API, to the YouTube API service, and extract the videos. So for this, I am going to say search for videos. And rather than writing all the code over here, this time around, also I am going to create a separate function which we will make use of again and again. And I will tell you why. So I'm going to say await YouTube videos, and let me create this method. So we can say private async task get YouTube videos. And this is where we will extract the information. And of course, once the videos are downloaded, we will set our data loaded to true so that we can start showing it on the front end. And we are capturing if we are connected to internet or not, that exception, and any other exception, anything else that can go wrong in our application. So what are we going to do in this? This is going to be a fairly simple method in the YouTube videos. All I'm doing, I'm saying call my API service, search video method with the parameters search term and next token. And you can see the search term and parameters are coming from here. The next token parameters are coming from here. To start with, the search term is empty. I can also make this either string.empty, or if you want to search for something specific on start, let's say I want all the iPhone 14 videos to appear on the screen. I can do that, or I can leave that empty. Let's do this for now. And our next page token is empty. So what it is doing, whenever the page loads, it is going to search for iPhone 14 videos, and since the next page token is empty, it is going to bring me the first 10 videos in the list. Next time when we search, when we implement infinite scrolling, that is as and when we scroll down and we reach towards the end of the list view or our collection view, it is going to fire the same function again, but this time around the next token will be set to some value which will fetch the next 10 videos, and it will set the next page token to something else. So next time when we scroll down, it is going to call the same function and get the videos from 21 to 30 and so on. So this is the service which is going to fetch me the result of YouTube videos. And if you recall from our data models, the YouTube video search, YouTube search video search result had a sub item which was next page token and the items collection. Where are my models? Here you go. So my video search result has a property called next page token, and it has a list of YouTube videos called items. So that is exactly what we are doing over here. We are setting our next token now. Immediately after we have downloaded, we are setting the next token to the next page token from these video results. And in our YouTube videos observable collection list, we are adding the items, the list that we have received. And this is exactly, let me go to the definition. And this is our list extension that we wrote on the observable collection, because you have an option to add individual item to a observable collection list, but you cannot add a range. And this is where this common list extension that we wrote comes into play. So after this call is completed, this whole stack is completed, in our YouTube videos property observable collection, we have a list of videos. Now, another thing that we can quickly do, if you remember, we went over here and we defined an image button for our settings page, which is not doing anything right now. So we can fix that. Maybe we can say command. We can set it to some command binding, open settings page command. Mode is equal to one way. And then we can also define this open settings page in our view model. So I can go and I can define a relay command. And I'm going to define it as private async open page. And what I'm going to async void, I'm going to do nothing in this. I'm just going to display method, display alert, settings. This implementation is outside the scope of this course. Got it. And this is the reason we injected also the paid service when we were implementing the view base class. So automatically the navigation service and the paid service is available to us in any of the view models, so we can make use of that over there. So that's it on this side. If I now go to my start page, and I can, instead of showing a label, I can actually show a collection view. So I can say collection view. Let me give it a name. Not necessarily you need to give the names, but I prefer to give them the names. In this particular case, I am going to make use of this collection view for something very specific. And I'm going to give it a margin. I'm going to put it around 16 points from the left, 4 from the top, 16 from the right, and nothing from the bottom. And I'm going to set its item source equals to bind it to my YouTube videos. Yeah, YouTube videos. Mode is equal to one way. So this is our collection view that we have. I can even define the layout. In my case, I'm going to use the vertical layout, which is the default layout, by the way, but I'm going to specify an item spacing of 12 points. So I want all the items to be spaced 12 points apart. And additionally, what I'm also going to do, I'm also going to define a header for this. This is where we are going to be putting in our, let me just say a content view for now. And this is where we are going to put our search box. For now, I'm going to just say label text is equal to search box will appear here. And I can give it a style as well. Static resource. Let's say regular light text 16 looks good to me. Now with this, if I run the application, what it is going to do, it is going to go and fetch the top 10 videos related to our search query, which is iPhone 14 in this case. So let's run the application and wait for it. Yeah. So you can see over here, we have got a header which says search box will appear here. And obviously, maybe you cannot see because it is black on the dark gray color, but you can see it has a list of 10 items, which is the name of our YouTube videos class. So this is something we can quickly fix by adding a data template. So I can say collection view dot items template. Add a data template. And in the data template, I can simply display, let me just copy paste this portion rather than typing it. So in the text, I'm going to display the video. And in our models, if I go back to the models, we have got the YouTube video, which has snippet, and snippet has the title property, which we can use. Snippet dot title property. Now, if I run this, you will see the names of the 10 videos which are extracted. And it is giving us some errors. So this is complaining that this member is not found in our start page view model. Because for this, we need to define the data model for or the data type for our data template. So let's actually bring it over here. I'm going to say XML NS, let's call it models equals to models from our application. And then I'm going to specify the data type for this to be models, and it is of type YouTube video. Now it is not complaining. Let me run the application. It should be coming up with a list of the 10 videos with the titles. So the first video title is iPhone 14. What can we expect? Forget the iPhone 14, etc., etc. So these are the 10 videos that we have extracted. But this is obviously not looking very good. Instead, we should be showing the thumbnail of the video, showing the title, channel name, channel logo, etc. in a much more visually appealing way. So let's actually fix that. For that, we can either define the whole template over here, or usually the way I like to do, I like to create a separate custom object or a custom control, XAML control for that, and stuff it over here. This way, I can first of all make use of the same control across multiple pages if required. And secondly, it is much more easier to go to that file separately and make changes. And my main page looks very clean and simple. So let's actually do that. In my view controls, I'm going to add a new file. I'm going to add a content view XAML page, XAML control. I'm going to call it video cell. So this is a simple XAML control. And so that we get a strongly typed data binding, I'm going to specify the data type for this, XML namespace. I'm going to call it models again, and this is going to be my models. I'm going to say this data type is models YouTube video. And I'm also going to give it a name, which we can refer in our code behind or in the XAML binding if required. I'm going to call it video cell root. And this is where we are going to implement our control. So let me bring in the code, and then I will explain to you what it is doing. So basically, I have a border control which has a background color of dark color, and this that has been defined in our app.xaml. And I'm going to give it a rounded borders of or a radius of 12 points on all the sides. And I'm going to set a padding of 6 points so that all my content is 6 points inside. In this border, all I have is a simple grid control. Let me minimize everything. So it's a simple grid control with a row spacing of 12, and there are just two rows. The first row is taking up the remaining space, and the bottom row is set to auto, which means it will adapt to the width that is required to display that information in the second row. And then in the very first row, all I have is the thumbnail, which I'm displaying it inside of a frame. Now, I prefer to use border over the frames because border is much lighter control than the frame. But unfortunately, there is a bug when we are working with clipping or clipping of images inside of the borders. It does not clip properly. On iOS, it does not clip on all the four sides, and on Android, it clips only on the top right and top left. So for the time being, I'm going to stick to frame. So it's a simple frame. I'm setting the shadow to true because I want to display a nice shadow. I'm setting its corner radius to 8, filling up all the space, and this is where I was mentioning that I'm going to clip it. And inside this frame, I have a simple image, which is going to display our thumbnail of high quality. One thing over here, instead of setting the source over here directly, I could have gone here and I could have set the source here like this. Instead of doing that, I am specifying it separately using the URI image source, because here I can now control the cache validity for this image. Imagine that you keep returning to this page again and again during the same day, and you do not want our application to go and fetch this high quality image from YouTube every time. So that is the reason we are setting the cache validity of 1 day. You can increase it, you can decrease it depending on your requirements. If I look at the video detail section, that is again a grid which is displaying a bunch of information. So I'm displaying the channel name, which is coming from my channel title property in snippet. I'm displaying the video title, which is coming from the title property, and I'm then showing a next arrow. This is just for user interface purposes. It has no meaning. You can decide to put whatever you want. So this is a simple control that we have created. Now let's go back to our start page, and we can actually change it to use this control. So I can say, let me bring in this namespace. Let's call them controls, view controls. Yeah, this is where it is defined. So here is my video cell. One thing that I can do on this, I can say horizontal options is fill. Now, if I run this, the UI will look much nicer. Here you go. It is showing the channel name and the video. And it is not showing us our image. Okay, it might be because of the height. So let me give a height request of say 200, and that is something that we will fix. Because in this control, we have set the first row to take up all the remaining space, and our data template is not allocating enough space to the control. So let us run this and see if this is fixed. Yeah, so now we can see our image as well. So the UI is looking much better. There are still a few things that we need to do. First of all, this image can be made larger. One way we can do, we can increase it over here. Let's say I can go and I can specify that, okay, this is 250 points or 300 or 400. I can decide what size it is, but then it is hard coded. What if you are running on a screen with smaller resolution or a higher resolution? In that case, what will happen is it will still be fixed to that size. We should actually dynamically adjust the height of this cell depending on the size of the screen. So actually, it should be proportionate to the width of the screen of the phone. So if you have a high resolution device, then instead of say 300 points or 300 pixels, it should be 450 pixels. If it is a smaller device or with smaller resolution, maybe it should be 200 points and so on. So how can we do that? This height request, it should be done dynamically. So for that, we are going to make use of an event called onSizeAllocated in our uh, page. So let me go to our page. In the code behind, this is where we are going to specify the height. For this, I'm going to first of all create a bindable property. Let me just call it item height property, and it is of type double. Nothing fancy going on about here, but then we can override our on size allocated event of the page. So whenever the size is changed or allocated to the page, so at that point in time, I'm going to go and I'm going to say that set my item height to 60 on the, let me go here, let me close some of them so that we can have some space. Yeah. So I'm just giving additional 60 pixels, and then I'm saying take the total width of the screen minus the margins on both sides of the list view. So this is the list view that we defined over here, list view LST videos. Let's fix that. So minus the margins divided by 1.8 and then give it 60 pixels, and this 60 pixels is what we are going to use for our second row, this. So with this, now I can go and I can change it to say binding items height, but this items height is not coming from our binding context, which is the view model in this case. It is coming from the page itself. So for that, I can say source is equal to, and I can reference it. I can say X reference and whatever is the name of the page that we gave here, which is root page. And with this, now if I run, we will see depending on your screen size, you will always see a very consistent box size on all the devices. So while it is loading, so all we are doing is we are saying whatever is the width of the screen minus the margins. So that is the width of my box divided by 1.8, because that is the ratio I want for my images. And then I want to give 60 pixels below to display my information. So here you go. So it is looking much nicer now. So the next thing we need to do, we need to bring in the channel URL. Let me run the application again just to show you. So we need to bring in the channel image as well. So ideally here in a border, we should be displaying the channel image. But if I go back to my models, based on the API calls that we did so far, we do not have the channel image URL. It is not available in our models. So if I go to my snippets, I do have the channel title, which is what I'm using, but I do not have the channel image URL. So that is something we need to bring in ourselves. Let me do something. First of all, let's go and add a custom property. I'm going to just call it channel image URL. It is not coming from any source right now. We will set it manually. And then we need to download this information using the API calls. Let's go back to our API Explorer on YouTube APIs. And we can see we have something called channels. And under channels, we have an ability to search for channel information or get details of a channel by specifying the ID. And this ID field can take multiple channel IDs. So coming back to our application, we have a list of 10 videos. So there are 10 different channels. There can be up to 10 different channels that can come up. There might be a case that all the 10 videos are from different channels. There may be a case that one video is from, or 3 videos are from one channel, and the remaining 7 videos are from 7 other channels. So we are talking about 8 different channels. So what we need to do, we need to download the images of these 8 or 10 channels and then set the channel image URL for each of the video so that we can display it on the screen. For that, again, the same thing, you can execute it. I'm just going to say snippet, and do I have an ID? Let me run this. And I'm going to get back the result. So you can see again, it is returning very similar result. It has items. Inside the items, it has snippets. Snippets have thumbnails and so on. You can take this to QuickType.io or JSON to C Sharp, and convert it to C Sharp code. And then you can bring it over here. For the purpose of simplicity, I'm just going to bring in some additional things which I'm taking, because everything else we have already. So I'm just going to bring it over here, and let's call it, and we are going to comment out this statistics part for now. We will come back to this later. So I'm just going to bring in a new class which is going to hold our result, which is the channel search results, and it is going to have a list of the channels, and each channel has an ID and it has a snippet, and the snippet remains the same. Some of the fields may be applicable, some of the fields may not be applicable. When we go to the detailed page, that is where we will add more information to our snippet from this channel URL to get that information. Now with our model set up, we need to go to our services, and we also need to now define an interface to get list of or information about our channels. So I can declare another endpoint in my service. I'm going to call it get channels, and I'm going to pass in list of my channel IDs, and it is going to return me the channel search result. And now I need to implement this in my YouTube services. Let me just copy paste. So again, very simple. I'm just setting the resource URI to channels. This is the endpoint. I'm going to get snippets as well as the statistics. Statistics we'll be using to get the list of or the count of subscribers for this channel, which we will display in the video details page. And again, I want maximum of 10 results per page. And for us, the next page token will not matter in this case, because since we are getting 10 videos over here at a time, maximum we can have 10 different channels or less. We cannot have more than 10 channels. So I do not need to worry about the next page token. And then I'm passing in my key, and I'm passing in the IDs which I'm getting, or which I require to get the images from. And then again, simple, I'm just saying result is equal to await get async, and I want to deserialize it to channel search result. This is my resource URI, and I'm caching it for 4 hours. As simple as that. Now with that done, we can go back to our start page view model, and we can fix something over here. So we need to now get the channel information, the channel details. Let me bring in a bit of code just to show you how we are getting it, and then I'll explain. So I'm constructing a list of my channel IDs by joining all the items. Let's put them in a different line. So, in our video search result, we have the items, which is the list of the 10 YouTube videos. What I'm doing for each of these 10 YouTube videos, I'm selecting the channel ID for each of the videos, and then I'm doing a distinct, because the example I gave you, what if 3 of the videos are from the same channel? In this case, I should only be getting the 8 channel IDs. I do not need to make a call to get all the 10 channels again, for which 3 of them will be repeated. So I'm constructing a list of my channel IDs. So this will be channel ID 1, channel ID 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then I'm just going to get the channel search result by making call to the API service, get channels, passing in these channel IDs. Once I have this, what I can do, let me move this to the new line. Okay. So what I'm doing for each of the items in my videos, for each YouTube video, I'm going and I'm setting the channel image URL, the new property that we created just now, equals to from my channel search result, I'm finding out the actual channel where the channel.id is equal to my video's channel ID. And then I'm taking the high thumbnail URL image from that channel. So that is all I'm doing. So once this is done, for each of my video, the channel image URL has the actual image. Now with this done, what we can do, we can go and we can add this image into our video cell. So this is the channel name. Just above the channel name, I can bring in my channel picture. So this is what I have brought in. Again, it's a simple border control with a stroke thickness of 2, and it's of size 36 points. It's a rounded circle because I'm setting the radius to 18. And then inside, I'm simply setting the image, and I'm clipping the image to be a circle. And the same thing, I'm using the URI image source so that it is cached for 1 day. Now, if I run this, I should also see the channel image or the channel picture on the left hand side. Yeah, here you go. So now the channel images are also appearing. And one thing you will notice, which is not happening, is it is only showing me these 10 videos. It is not doing anything. What we need to do in the next video, we'll be doing 3 things. We'll be completing this page. So the very first thing we'll do, we'll implement the infinite scroll. So the moment we reach towards the end, it will go make the API call to get or fetch the next 10 YouTube videos, display them on the screen. Again, when we scroll down, the same thing will happen. The other thing we will do here, we just put a placeholder that we will have a search box. So we are going to implement a custom search box, because the search box which is available out of the box with .NET MAUI, it has a lot of limitations. Plus, it is not, let's put it that way, it's not highly customizable or visually appealing. So instead, we'll be rolling out or creating our own custom control, which will implement that same search functionality. And the last thing that we will do is, when we click on any of the video, right now, if I click anywhere, it is not showing me the details. So we will navigate to the details video page, passing in this video ID, and there we will fetch more details about the video, such as the view count. Will have the ability to play the video, download the video, share the video. We'll see how many likes this video has, how many subscribers are there, description of the video. We'll also get the comments which have been posted related to this video, and so on. So that is what we will do in the upcoming sessions. So that's it for now. See you around next time. Thank you, everyone.